Hi everyone, my name is Melissa van Dijk, and in today's video I want to talk about what normal skin actually is. Because what I've noticed over the last years is that when I reply to questions in my comment section, many of you don't really seem to know anymore what untreated normal skin actually feels or even looks like. And I think a big reason for that is that you've been targeted by algorithms on TikTok, Instagram, maybe even here on YouTube and other platforms. So you mostly see content that already matches your current reality, which means you're constantly exposed to skin that's being managed, corrected, enhanced, and optimized in some way. And if you're aware of that and you like it, there's no issue. However, the problem starts when you don't really realize this anymore and it really becomes your reference point for real life. Because once that's your baseline, normal skin can start to feel wrong, even though nothing is actually wrong. And what really made me think about this even more is when you actually type "what is normal skin" into Google. Because the answer you get is completely pulled from all this marketed advice floating around online. And Google just compresses it into a neat little AI-generated package that sounds very official. And it usually goes as something like this. Normal skin is described as well-balanced, not too oily or too dry, feeling hydrated and comfortable, with a smooth texture, fine pores, even tone, and minimal sensitivity or breakouts. Which honestly is a terrible summary of what normal skin actually is. Because if you read that, and only that, and you don't know any better, and maybe you're already in a more insecure or low-place mentality, you will very quickly start believing that anything outside of this description is abnormal or wrong. And that's the real problem. Because taken literally, this description is complete nonsense. But I think that it can quietly become a reference point for you based on how you think your skin should look and feel. And once it becomes your baseline, your real untreated skin can start to feel wrong, even though nothing is wrong at all. So I want to clarify this a bit. Now, normal skin is really skin just doing its job on its own. It's skin that doesn't need to be constantly intervened with, optimized or enhanced in order to function. It doesn't need to be corrected all the time, because our skin is alive. There are little organisms living on it that protect it, and there's an immune system underneath it as well. So it reacts to water, to air, to temperature, to how much you slept, to stress, to what you eat, and the environment in general. So it's completely normal that sometimes it feels a bit tighter, and later it might feel a bit drier or oilier, or it looks a bit more textured, or slightly red, or even a bit more sensitive. That's not a problem. That's just skin responding to what's going on around you. And this is really important to understand, because oiliness and dryness aren't fixed personality traits of your skin. They change all the time depending on the weather, humidity, heating, air conditioning, stress, food, travel, and seasons. Your skin is supposed to fluctuate, and that fluctuation is a normal state. Then we also have pore size. And it has absolutely nothing to do with whether your skin is normal, balanced, or healthy. Google totally made that up, because pores are structural, they're just part of your face. How visible they look depends mostly on things like light, oil, heat, and genetics, not on how good you are at skincare. So the idea that fine pores define a normal skin is basically made up. And the issue is that many of you no longer really have normal skin as a reference point. If you've been using products for years, your idea of what skin is supposed to feel like slowly shifts. And I know this very well myself, especially from recording tutorials for so many years. I mean, I used so many products during that time that a freshly washed, soft-coated skin started to feel like the baseline, even though that feeling is actually created by constant intervention. And as long as you keep doing that, you don't really notice it. But the problem usually starts when you stop using products or reduce them. Suddenly the skin starts to feel different, and instead of seeing that as neutral, it often gets interpreted as a problem. You might think something is wrong, that the barrier is damaged, or that the skin is lacking something. When in reality, what's often missing is just that constant layer of stimulation that was there before. And honestly, in most cases, nothing is happening on a biological level. The skin isn't breaking down. What's happening is simply that it's no longer being cosmetically altered. And we really have been taught to confuse sensation with damage. Basically, like, if the skin feels something, it must be bad. And if it doesn't feel perfectly comfortable, it must need fixing. But healthy skin isn't numb, and it's not designed to feel like it has something on it all the time. And a lot of this comes from medical skincare advice being applied to everyone. Because dermatology exists to treat inflamed, irritated or diseased skin. And those rules make sense when the skin is actually in trouble. But when they turn into everyday lifestyle advice for healthy skin, they don't create health. They create insecurity. So people start stepping in when they don't need to. And over time, that constant interference teaches the skin to rely on it. Then when you stop, those unfamiliar sensations feel alarming, even though they're just normal. And I think that this is very similar to food. If junk food is your baseline, you slowly forget what real food actually tastes like. And then when you eat something simple and unprocessed again, it can taste odd at first. Not because it's wrong, but because your reference point has shifted, even though that's actually what your body is biologically designed for. And it's very similar with skin. Normal skin was never meant to be perfectly smooth, to be perfectly glowing or perfectly comfortable all the time. It was meant to function, and that's the important distinction. Function and cosmetic comfort are not the same thing. So if your skin feels different without products, that doesn't automatically mean something is wrong. More often than not, it just means your skin is feeling that you're feeling your skin again without anything sitting on top of it. And once you understand that, a lot of fear around skincare starts to fall away. Now I hope that this video helped you a bit. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!